This is All Grid.
Hosted by Animesh and Tanya. Wasn't it heartening to see so many listeners tune into our first episode on Pocket Casts and Spotify, Animesh? And to think of it, we had only planned it to be YouTube driven initially.
Yes, Tanya, I am glad about it too. Being channel agnostic has really worked for us. Now, speaking of Spotify, I swear by their song suggestions. Spot on every single time. It's like black magic.
Well, and did you notice that they only get better the more you use them? It's not black magic, Animesh. It's a play on data that backs their amazing recommendation algorithm.
If I start putting pennies in a jar for every time someone said data, the world would be out of jars.
Cannot argue that. The digital age we are in has made the collection of data absurdly efficient, and we are able to draw insights out of it like never before.
Wait, without giving away anything else, you should go ahead and introduce our guest, who is here today to demystify the professional field of data and analytics for us.
Today on the podcast, we have Nimish, who has a rich experience as an analytics and data consultant with several big names of the industry. Currently, he's a data and analytics manager at BCG, where he's actively involved in planning and executing digital transformation journeys for his clients. We sat and spoke to him about the challenges within the field, new shapes the industry is taking, and what the future looks like.
Hi Nimish, how are you? Hi Tanya.
Hey, hi guys. Hope you guys are doing well. It's a good Sunday afternoon now.
Yeah, we are glad to have you. We are glad to have you, and let us hope that this episode becomes a good experience for us and you as well. And you don't
Yep.
end up getting irritated by our questions by the end of 35 minutes.
I hope my experience, get you some value and some insights in the analytics industry. So yeah, looking forward for it.
So we are going to start with some easier questions. So now, looking at you and your profile, a lot of us out there in business schools want to be in BCG, Boston Consulting Group, where you are. Now, if we could just start by going through the path which brought you to this place.
Right. So yeah, it has been a journey which I didn't foresee 10 years back that I'll be working in BCG, though I always aspired to be working in an organization that drives change. But I didn't imagine myself to be here, right? So in the start. So when I started as a mechanical engineer in college and got selected in Tata Consultancy Services, I was working as a developer there. Was posted in Japan working for an investment banking firm. Came back, joined a company called NetScout Systems, and when I realized that I have, created a good foundation for me where I can work on technologies and I can understand technologies. I thought what I need to really look into is in the business aspect of things, how they work. And that is when I joined my PG course in IIM Lucknow. And when I passed out from there, I realized that data is going to be something which is very critical in future. Data is not only a medium where we are talking about creation of application softwares, but data is going to be used as a major fuel for any problem solving in a business organization. So with that approach, I focused on analytics, and I created or in fact I picked a lot of courses which were heavy on analytics, and that gave me a good credibility in my resume, and I got campus placed with Mu Sigma. There I worked with couple of pharmaceutical accounts where we are working on the commercial marketing strategy for them. Then I got a chance to work with Kanta, where we were working as a analytics consulting for a couple of CPG clients. And then I got into BCG, where I am working on multiple innovative products, as well as I'm trying to build a lot more unified technology platform where we can work on creating data products that help in digitizing BCG IP.
That is
Right. So
amazing, and I think that's Yeah, that's a journey that all of us, in fact, who got into the MBA. We want to figure out what is it that we want to do later, once we're in the MBA. So that's a question that I have for you is that when you got into the MBA, did you go into it thinking that you'll go back to tech? Because you said that you figured out during the course that data is really important. So what were the options that you were considering while you were in the MBA?
Right. So, see, for any MBA and over decades, there have been two profiles that have been most sought after, right? One is investment banking, another is management consulting. And no matter what, it's as good as, young guy looking forward to marry a Bollywood girl in life, right? So when reality strikes you, that is when you realize that what is best suited for you. And when you get into an executive postgraduate course, you have to realize that what you have done in your life is the one that you cannot let go, right? So I have been a technologist entire my life before joining MBA, so that is something that I cannot ignore. So I have to build my career on top of it, right? And that's my core strength. I cannot just let go technology out of me, and that's my strength, and I need to build my career around it. And that is why I saw what are the other complementary skills that are required um, for me in a new role where technology is the core and rest of the things come in periphery. And analytics was something which was best suited because I had to get going with new skills that were business and related to data understanding and bit of applied mathematics, and that gave me a full-fledged view of how analytics role should come. So to answer your question precisely, when I got into MBA, I did not think very keenly that I will be getting into analytics space. But when I went there and after term two, I realized, yes, that's a very promising space for me. And this is the journey that I should take, the learning journey, in fact, to get a role in analytics. So between term one and term two is somewhere I got my gyan.
I think we have time then, Animesh, because our term two is still going on.
Yeah, we don't know how long it will stretch out to the term two.
Yeah.
It's like we are stuck in a loop, the same day every day.
And I guess it's sooner or better if you know your destination. It helps you in preparing yourself, right? So what you require from an MBA is very important, because that is something which is very unique to you and only you can decide it for yourself. It cannot be a cut copy paste from anyone's career.
I think it is a trade off because the moment you decide you want to do this, you start thinking, what if it does not work out? What if it does not work out? So you want to be a generalist to do everything. Like you want to be functional in everything. You don't want to be a specialist in one single thing. That, oh, this is my speciality.
Yes. So that's a old confusion or a dilemma that always remains, that whether you want to be jack of all trades and master of none. But there is always at least one core strength that you need to have and build your career on top of it.
Yes.
One is your anchor and rest of the things complement that anchor. So be a technologist, and then project management, people management, business development, all those things come as an complementary thing for your profile.
Yes. Now,
Right. So
since you said about technology, how you saw that technology was changing things, and we believe that we are living in the cusp of a time where the change is happening in front of us, and a lot of things are happening. So now, clubbing this with the question that the most popular career choice in an MBA is management consulting. Now, 20 years ago, the perception of the consultant is still the same, I think, in our heads. We still have the same perception of that consultant. Now, how do you compare it with the onset of technology where decisions are being powered with data? Is traditional consulting has changed when compared to contemporary consulting?
right. So that's a good question and a pretty interesting one as well. So 2 decades back, what you could have imagined, that there is a that there's an organization that runs into a problem, and a guy well dressed in a suit flies down to your head office, and he comes across as a superman, and he tries to solve all the things for you, right? And he charges a bomb for it. But now point is, the problem space has evolved so much, and the way things are changing and the way different actors interact in the entire problem space, it's very difficult for one person to be an expert of everything because the change is happening very frequently.
Yes.
And the best way to solve such a complex problem is using data, because data is something that can only tell you what happened in the past, how you can fix it in present, and what will it take for you if you do certain actions, how will it act in future, right? So that is a one only medium. That is why people focus a lot on data, that it gives you past, present, and future sense of your problems. So now what you can see is that management consultant is being supported by different functions, be it a knowledge function, be it a data analytics function, be it a research function, so that they're able to effectively solve the problems,
Okay.
right? So think of it in a way that the core remains the management consulting philosophy, where you bring a lot of frameworks, you're trying to solve the problem, break down the problem, but it is empowered by data analytics so that it becomes a very much credible solution for your clients, right? And also what happens is, when you are working on a certain problem, it is very important for you to show your clients what is the right value generation out of it, because it just cannot happen you give me a prescription and I follow it and there is no accountability. With a new problem space, more competitive world, many more players coming in the market, it is very important that who is the one who is looking into the future and is able to help us in getting the right value out of the problem, right?
Mm.
And the engagement styles are changing. Rather than having one FTE billing, we are looking at something where the change that is coming up, the revenue gain that you're coming up, do we get a percentage in that? So the concept, the structure of the entire engagement is changing. The people are supported by a lot more data functions out here, and it is more and more accountable for a management consultant to solve the problem for their clients.
I think what you said was really interesting, and the value of data has become unquestionable. I think all of us realize that now, and it's regardless of the use case, right? It could be in the media industry, it could be in the research and development industry, finance industry, whatever you call it. And organizations have become tremendously data conscious.
Yes.
But I think the problem is that the organizations often believe in over farming without knowing the exact intent of the transformation of the data that's going to finally take place. So, can you tell us from your experience in Kantar and New Sigma that if there was a challenge that you saw in linking data transformation to actual value generation finally?
Right. So see, one thing that we need to understand is problem don't exist in point in time.
Mm.
Problems are continuous, like like this new virus, it keeps on changing its shape, form, and size. The same way the problems also continuously evolve. And what is important is there has to be a strategic and a continuous mechanism in which you are in the habit of problem solving, at the same time measuring the effectiveness of your solution and then going back and solving the problem, right? So there is a entire cycle where you are course correcting your solutions and coming back and measuring, identifying a new problem and continuously doing that. And that is where your data and technology comes together. You create a solution, then you democratize the solution using the right technology, so that there is a single source of truth in the organization and people work on it. So now what happens is, in the kind of work that is done, there is a lot of transformation journey that goes on. And when an organization signs up for such a journey, there have to be a lot more different things that also needs to be done, not only by problem solving, right? So if I imagine, like if I am trying to create a um, personalized marketing journey for a certain client, so it is not only the data and analytics function that you're setting up, there is a lot more change management that also needs to be effectively managed, because people who are like brand managers, marketers in that organization need to adopt to those systems, and they need to use it in their day-to-day decision making. So that is where you are able to drive the change and bring out the right effectiveness of data and its solution in such a new space for them. So that is where I say, it's a continuous journey. People have to adopt to the changes that are coming to them, and at the end, it is a cycle. It cannot be one way. You have to course correct yourself.
That is, I think, very well said that, everything is a cycle in the end. It's just taking new shapes and we have to adapt to it uh,
Yep.
for the time. So, my next question is actually about the work that you do. I want to ask you something about data insights. And, personally, I love to see the end results of any work that I do. And the nature of output of analytics is such that it is only as good as the action which is taken upon it, right? So, as a data analytics manager at BCG, do you get visibility into how the insights generated by your team are being used by your clients?
So, see, technically, when we get involved in a certain project, and it is applicable across the organization and the industry, right? Everyone has a role to play. So I am someone who is not involved in the entire end-to-end journey in a certain case, but in certain cases I am involved at the same time. So not in all the cases I get to see what I have done. Does it result in all? But someone else is responsible to monitor it, right? So we come like, imagine it as different doctors who come and operate on a certain patient, and someone is responsible to give anesthesia, someone is responsible to just do a surgery, someone is responsible for a post surgery recovery and all, right? So everyone has a role to play. Having said that, in today's space, what we see is there is an end-to-end engagement that is encouraged, and one who is responsible as a engagement manager to start the engagement, to fund it, to sponsor it, to talk to the stakeholders, is the one who essentially drives it from start point to the end point. So the monitoring is important. Who does it is not important. And the systems are created in such a way that whatever insights and actions you take are being measured, and they are being monitored. And if there is any issue, then it goes back and it is solved again. So nothing goes out of sight for anyone.
Got it.
So you do get to see whatever work you're doing in front of your laptop. You do
I
get
get to
to
I
see.
get to I get to know the feedback. If certain thing
Okay.
doesn't come, my neck is in the line. I have to ensure it works.
Okay, okay. Now, one point which I wanted to ask you was, so we had a CSO, a Chief Sustainability Officer of a big company in our campus as a guest speaker. So this is the same question which I asked him. Why do you need a different sustainability department? If somebody is marketing in your company, they are supposed to follow sustainable marketing practices. If somebody is in finance, they're supposed to follow sustainable marketing practices, so on and so forth. Similarly, why do I need a different department in my company with analytics? If I'm in marketing, there's marketing analytics. If I'm in finance, there's finance analytics. So why does that function exist?
Got it. So see, depends how important or strategic is analytics to your organization. Number one, if it is a topmost priority, what I would require is that there is one central governance body that ensures that there are best practices and there are right projects that are identified in the organization, which is anchored by this particular team,
Okay.
right? That is why you need one team that is driving analytics in the entire organization. And the way it works is in a kind of a matrix way, where this particular team is working as a horizontal, and the individual function that you were saying, marketing, finance, operations, HR, they come as a vertical, right? And they
Okay.
cut across,
Okay.
so that a person who is intersecting between the structure is the one who is responsible for driving it vertically, and the central office is trying to drive it horizontally and trying to maintain best practices across all the functions. So it's a matter of how strategically important it is for you, and a central team ensures that finance is not left out, then marketing or HR is not left out, and create systems that are single source of truth. It cannot happen that marketing is referring to a different revenue report and finance is referring to a different revenue report.
Yes.
So someone reported 100 million as your revenue and someone reported 105 million as your revenue. So not to have those sort of things, it's better to have one source of truth.
Now, building onto this thought, can you tell me if I want to start today, how should I go about building a career around analytics? Being an MBA graduate, being in an executive MBA, as you're saying, as you were in as well. And at the same time, if I want to pursue marketing or operations or even consulting for that matter, what is the competency which is expected? What is the minimum competency which is expected of?
Great. So let's take one by one, right? So let's talk about first analytics.
Okay.
So analytics is a sort of a space where you can think of it as an intersection of three basic skills. Applied mathematics, where you talk about different algorithms like regression, clustering, all those things. Then comes business sense, where we talk about how a business functions in terms of, say, marketing, operations, finance, so that you have a basic knowledge of how these different divisions work. And then comes technology, be it like your Python, R, big data, Hadoop, all those things. So it's an intersection of all these things, and analytics professional will have a sense of all these three elements in his profile, right? And it's very important that you identify what is your anchor between these three things that I spoke, and how you can complement the other two things. Like personally, I always remain a kind of a person who is technologist at the core, and rest of the other things are my periphery.
Okay.
Right? So you have to find out how you want to anchor yourself between these three elements in analytics. Number one. Number two, coming to your executive course, I guess you are exposed to all the three elements.
Okay.
Right? You will be taught basic mathematics as well in your different courses. You will be taken through different functions like a marketing course, operations course, HR course, finance course. So that is helping you in understanding those subjects as well. And technology is something that you will have to build, at least to a certain level. For a non-tech person, at least they understand what goes in, what goes out, right? So there is an input, there is an output, there is a processing unit in between, and how it works is something that is a basic that you should know. Now comes to a very live role when it comes to your professional acceptance in industry, right? So what is important is consulting as in general is an space which celebrates expertise, right? So consultants are known for being experts, right? So whenever you want to get into a consulting role, it's important that you bring out certain expertise out for yourself, be it analytics, be it management specific, be it anything, right? So you have to be an expert in something. And I guess through your courses, you should identify your inclination towards one subject and build on top of it. Have a good understanding of data, have a lot of good soft skills, because that will help you in understanding the problem statement as well as communicating the insights in the best way. Have a very good learning mindset where you are not dependent on some professor in life to come and teach you how the problem has to be broken, but have a structured problem solving mindset where you can solve any problem given to you. So it's important you solve you solve the problems in a consistent, in a structured way, have the right soft skills for yourself, as well as continue to learn. If you're getting into this space, your learning will never stop.
Yes.
So you have to ensure you continuously update yourself.
No, but if I'm going into marketing, so what is the minimum competency I need when it comes to data analytics? Do I need to make sense of the insights, the data which comes on my table?
Exactly. So now, good that you pick a very specific example, and let's talk about, say, marketing. Right? So if you are in marketing and you are looking for yourself in analytics, what is required is you need to understand application of analytics in marketing. And let's talk about, take an example of personalized marketing again. So you need to have a minimum competency where you can understand what the data is, what are the key KPIs in that data, based on which how these KPIs are affected by different drivers in the data, right? So if there is a certain consumer behavior, you are saying what drives that consumer behavior. And in the end, what is required is you should be able to use the right technique and identify the story right from the results. So
Yes.
you may not be very proficient in writing an algorithm, but you should be very proficient in understanding the insights from the result. So that's a sort of a minimum expectation that you should have if you are getting into a very domain specific analytics. Data is important, KPIs are important, and you should be able to draw insights from the results.
Okay.
And something that you mentioned was that you said you have to identify what sort of analytics are you inclined towards. So is that for you? And you said that you base your tech is the backbone, and you analytics is surrounding that. So is that something that you figured out during the MBA, or was it something that you figured out once you started working, having real-time experience in your journey with New Sigma after your MBA? And how does one go about it? I basically, from a
So
personal point of view.
it depends when you get enlightened. um, I got to understand myself little better during a break, so I thought that this is the best way for me. And for me, my core strength was pretty obvious, but I always suggest, if you know your core strength, don't leave it. That's pretty important. If you are a good salesperson, for example, then continue to do business development for an analytics organization,
Oh, okay.
right? But don't leave the sales. That's a core strength of yours. Just if you're thinking that, I'll just get away with the business development responsibility and I'll start developing algorithm, that may not be a justice for you, right? So keep your core strength with you and build around it.
I think that's very good advice. So now we've reached the part of the podcast, which is basically the heart of the piece. We are at a place where we're going to talk about, your professional decision making, and we know that you've gone through a very tough and long grind to reach where you are right now. So we'd like you to tell us about a difficult decision that you made so far in your career, which has sort of, made you the person that you are, which is helped you.
Right. So, let me start it in a way that, joining is always joyful and parting is always painful, right? So, whenever you are uh, separating yourself from a certain activity or an individual, it is always painful, and it's always a difficult decision. So, when you are trying to close down a very favorite project of yours in between because it doesn't make sense anymore, it's not relevant in the business context, it's a very tough decision. Or when you have to decide on someone's competency and say, probably this is not the right place for him to work here anymore because his competency is different and this is not what we are looking for, that is a very difficult situation. When you have to do a lot of appraisals and then you have to choose between two of your best people and you have to award, this guy is A rated, this guy is A minus, and you have to decide among those. Are difficult situations. So as a people manager, you get into a lot of different difficult situations. As a project manager also, you have to get into a lot of difficult situations. And another is, as a analytics person, you have to get into a lot of situations wherein you may be knowing that this is not the best of the solution, but probably this is the right one at this time, and you have to defend your not so good analysis also in front of a lot of stakeholders.
What you
So
said
yeah.
resonates at a level that when we do our case studies, sometimes we tend to latch onto the solutions, that this is the right solution, that this is how this company should go forward. And I think that is something, closing down a project is very, must be extremely painful.
Yeah, I think you need to
Exactly.
detach, the emotion out of it. You have to keep those things separate, and that can get pretty muddy, I think, at times.
Exactly. I mean, as a emotional quotient, it has to be very high. Empathy is always there, that works, and you always have to take these decisions. It's a part and parcel of the game. So the more difficult decisions you're taking in life, you should understand the more wiser you are and more senior you are in your organization. Because easy decisions are done at a level which is pretty easy to survive, right?
Now we are running out of time. So if you have the stage for the next 1 minute, if you to tell us something interesting which you have been doing for the past few months in your lockdown, something which you are
Mhm.
doing or your organization is doing, a new skill you picked up or a new technology you are learning.
Right. So I cannot reveal all the details of my what we are doing in organization because we do a lot of innovation stuff. If I tell you, I'll have to kill you. But jokes apart, yeah, one specific thing that we have been helping our clients around with is how do we respond in Corona times. So one is how do you best survive or sustain your business during these times, and once markets reopen and when there is a more normalcy which comes into the markets, how you want to hit back in the market, what can be your revival strategies, what can be your those sort of things when it comes a U scenario, V scenario, W scenario that you keep on listening about. So that is where we have worked a lot in past. And then secondly, we are working on a lot of new technology solutions where we are trying to create a lot more our organization IP into new technology platforms, so that it is available to our client as how I say it is, you solve one problem in many places. So that's why you require a sort of a product. So that's where we are working on right now.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, it sounds really exciting. And I think very unfortunately, at least for me, we've reached the end of the podcast because I have loved talking to you, and I think Animesh feels the same. I speak for the both of us, and I think we definitely have come out knowing a lot more about data analytics. And data is something which is around us, and we know that it's being spoken of and worked on, but we still don't understand the game that happens inside the doors of the BCGs and the McKinseys and these corporations. And that it was wonderful that you came and spoke to us and spend some time of your weekend with us. Thank you so much.
All pleasure. And one last piece of thing that I would like to share is data is something that we continuously generate. We are not aware of it, and it is not limited to any big organization anymore. That's why you see a lot of startups hitting in this space, be it service industry, be it a product industry. Data and analytics, something which is a backbone for a lot of companies in these times. So yes, data is the new oil, and keep firing your engines on top of it.